She had 30 seconds to decide. Hang up the call or fall right there in that bathroom. Inside her pocket was an envelope that powerful men would kill to protect. The man behind her wasn't there to scare her. He was there to make sure she never talked. One word from her mouth could destroy an empire or end her life. What would you have done here? And that's when the line went silent.
Please, just listen to me. 1 minute. That's all I'm asking. Her voice barely rises above a whisper. The phone pressed against her ear feels like ice. On the other end, silence. Then breathing. Heavy. Controlled. She's standing in a gas station bathroom outside Pittsburgh at 2:47 a.m. The fluorescent light above her head flickers. Her hands are shaking so badly she almost drops the phone. You have 30 seconds, the voice says. Mail. Flat. Final. She closes her eyes. In her coat pocket there's an envelope. Inside that envelope a photograph. And inside that photograph the end of everything. I know what you did in Baltimore, she says. I know about the warehouse. I know about the fire. And I know who was inside. The silence stretches. She can hear her own heartbeat. Where are you? He asks. She doesn't answer. Because 3 hours ago, she received a text from a number she didn't recognize. For words. They're coming for you. I'm not asking for money, she continues. I'm asking for my life. Another pause. Then, you should have stayed quiet. The line goes dead. She stares at her reflection in the cracked mirror. 28 years old. A court stenographer from Scranton. No criminal record. No enemies. Until tonight. Her name is Sarah Callahan. And in 6 hours she'll be dead. At least that's what Vincent Marconi believes. Sarah Callahan was the kind of person no one noticed. She'd worked at the Allegheny County Courthouse for 4 years. Same desk. Same routine. Every morning at 7:15, she'd arrive with a thermos of black coffee and take her seat in the back of courtroom 6. Her job was simple: record everything. Every word. Every objection. Every verdict. She was invisible. And she preferred it that way. Vincent Marconi, on the other hand, was impossible to ignore. He owned half of Pittsburgh's waterfront. Restaurants. Construction companies. A shipping business that moved cargo up and down the eastern seaboard. On paper, he was a businessman. In reality, everyone knew the truth. He just had never been proven guilty. Sarah had been in the courtroom the day his case was dismissed. Racketeering charges. Witness intimidation. The prosecution's key witness disappeared 2 days before trial. The judge had no choice. Case closed. Vincent walked out a free man. But Sarah had noticed something that day. Something small. A moment between Vincent and his attorney. A glance. A nod. And later, a file was exchanged in the hallway outside. She didn't think much of it. Not until 3 months later, when she was organizing old transcripts and found a discrepancy. A page missing from the official record. A page she distinctly remembered typing. It was about a warehouse in Baltimore. A fire. And 3 bodies that were never identified. She made a copy, just in case. That copy would become her death sentence. Vincent Marconi didn't make rash decisions. He built his empire on patience. On reading people. On knowing when to strike and when to wait. But when his attorney, Richard Kohler, walked into his office that Tuesday afternoon, Vincent knew something had gone wrong. "We have a problem," Richard said, closing the door behind him. Vincent leaned back in his leather chair, the skyline of Pittsburgh framed behind him through floor-to-ceiling windows. "Explain. Someone has the transcript. The real one." Vincent's expression didn't change, but his fingers stopped tapping on the armrest. "Who?" "A stenographer. Sarah Callahan. She's nobody. Lives alone. No family in the area. Works at the courthouse." "How did she get it?" "She was in the room. She typed it. We removed it from the official file, but she must have kept a copy." Vincent stood and walked to the window. Below, the Allegheny River moved slowly through the city. He'd grown up 3 blocks from here, in a neighborhood where people learned early that survival meant knowing when to keep your mouth shut. Has she contacted anyone? Vincent asked. Not yet, but my guy says she's been asking questions. Quietly. She's careful. Vincent turned. Then she knows what she has. Richard nodded. What do you want me to do? Vincent didn't hesitate. Make it clean. Make it look like an accident. And do it tonight. Sarah couldn't sleep. She lay in her small apartment in Bloomfield, staring at the ceiling. The envelope sat on her kitchen table, exactly where she'd left it. She hadn't wanted this, any of this. All she'd wanted was to do her job, pay her rent, maybe save enough to visit her sister in Denver next year. But now she was holding proof that Vincent Marconi had ordered a fire that killed 3 people. Dock workers who'd tried to unionize. Men with families. Men who'd been locked inside and left to burn. And the transcript proved Vincent's attorney had tampered with evidence to keep it out of court. She'd thought about going to the police, but she wasn't naive. Vincent had people everywhere. Judges, prosecutors, cops. If she went to the wrong person, she'd disappear. So she'd done the only thing she could think of. She'd called Vincent directly. His private number, which she'd found in a file months ago and never deleted. She thought if she could talk to him, reason with him, maybe offer to destroy the evidence in exchange for her safety. But the moment she heard his voice, she knew. He wasn't going to let her live. She grabbed her coat and keys. She had to run. Dominic Santoro had done this 43 times before. He was what Vincent called a closer. Someone who solved problems that couldn't be solved with money or lawyers. He'd been given Sarah's address, her car, her photo. He knew her routine better than she did. He also knew she'd already left. He stood in her apartment, scanning the space. Small, clean. A life lived quietly. Books on the shelf. A plant by the window that was slightly overwatered. No sign of the transcript. His phone buzzed. A text from one of Vincent's guys. Asterisk, she used her credit card. Gas station off Route 22. 40 minutes ago. Dominic smiled. Amateur mistake. He walked out, got in his car, and headed east. Sarah had maybe 2 hours. Maybe less. Sarah's phone rang as she crossed into Ohio. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Sarah Callahan? A woman's voice. Older. Calm. Who is this? My name is Linda Rossini. I'm a federal prosecutor. And I know what you're running from. Sarah's heart stopped. How did you? I've been investigating Vincent Marconi for 2 years. I know about the transcript. I know what it contains. And I know you're in danger. Then why didn't you protect me? A pause. Because I didn't know you existed until tonight. But I'm offering you protection now. Turn yourself in. We'll put you in witness protection. You'll testify and we'll take him down. Sarah wanted to believe her, but trust felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. How do I know you're real? You don't, but you're running out of options. Sarah glanced in her rearview mirror. Headlights, the same ones that had been behind her for the last 20 miles. I'll call you back, she said and hung up. Vincent received the call at 11 p.m. She's off the grid, Dominic said. But I'm close. How close? By morning. Vincent hung up and poured himself a whiskey. He stood alone in his office, the city glowing below him. He thought about Sarah Callahan, a woman he'd never met, a woman whose only crime was paying attention. And for the first time in years, Vincent felt something he didn't recognize. Regret. Not because of what he'd done. He'd made peace with that long ago. But because he knew what was in that envelope. And he knew Sarah didn't just have evidence against him. She had evidence that would destroy someone else. Someone Vincent had spent 15 years protecting. His daughter, Emily Marconi, 24 years old, a law student at Georgetown. Smart, ambitious, everything Vincent had never been. She didn't know what her father really did. And Vincent had gone to great lengths to keep it that way. But the night of the Baltimore fire, Emily had been there. Not inside the warehouse, but nearby. A witness, a liability. Vincent had buried that fact, paid off everyone who knew, erased every record, except one. The transcript Sarah was holding didn't just implicate him. It implicated Emily. And if Sarah went public, his daughter's life was over. Sarah never made it to the Ohio border. Dominic found her at a rest stop just outside Youngstown. She was sitting in her car, phone in hand, trying to decide who to trust. He knocked on the window. She looked up, saw his face, and knew. "Step out of the car," he said. She didn't move. Instead, she held up the envelope. "There's something you need to see." Dominic hesitated. "I'm not here to negotiate." "I know, but your boss is making a mistake." She opened the envelope and pulled out a single photograph. She held it up to the window. Dominic looked at it. His expression changed. It was a picture of a young woman standing outside the Baltimore warehouse the night of the fire, taken by a security camera across the street. Timestamp: 11:42 p.m. Emily Marconi. "She was there," Sarah said quietly. "She saw what happened. And if I go public, she becomes a witness. Or an accomplice. Either way, her life is over." Dominic stared at the photo, then at Sarah. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I don't want to destroy her. I just want to live." Dominic stepped back. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Vincent answered on the first ring. "We have a problem," Dominic said. 3 days later, Sarah Callahan was found dead in a motel room outside Cleveland. Official cause: overdose. The transcript was never recovered. Vincent Marconi attended a charity gala that same week. He smiled at the photographers, shook hands with politicians, donated $50,000 to a children's hospital. His daughter graduated law school the following spring. She never knew how close she'd come to losing everything. And somewhere in a federal evidence locker, a prosecutor named Linda Rossini stared at a file that would never be opened, because Sarah Callahan had made one final decision before she died. She'd sent the transcript, not to the FBI, not to the press, to Vincent, with a note: *, keep her safe. That's all I ever wanted. *. Vincent burned it the moment he received it. But every night since, he sees Sarah's face. A woman he never met. A woman who chose his daughter's future over her own. And for the first time in his life, Vincent Marconi understands the weight of mercy. And the cost of silence. If stories like this make you feel something dark, something real, something you can't quite shake, then you're in the right place. Hit that like button, drop a comment below telling me what you thought, and subscribe, because I've got more stories like this. Stories that'll make you question everything. And trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.